How's it going, everybody? Daner here with North Central Coins, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the most rare and valuable coins in Canada. Today we're going to be discussing a few rare toonie varieties that can make you hundreds if not thousands of dollars that you probably had no idea even existed. Because the Canadian $2 coin is so widely used and accessible, it makes your chances of finding one of these rare heirs or varieties a lot better. In this video, we will explore the historical context surrounding the production of each of these gems and delve into why they hold such importance in Canadian numismatic history. Additionally, we will discuss any distinguishing and identifying features, their significance among collectors, and also the potential value if you happen to own or discover a legitimate example of any of these pieces. Before I do get into this, I would really appreciate if you guys would smash that thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and also ring that bell notification so you can stay up to date with my new content as it is being released. And then without any further ado, what do you say we get right into it and take a look at these incredibly rare Canadian 1996 Toonie heirs. Let's get it, guys. The Canadian Toonie, also known as the Canadian $2 coin, was introduced on February 19, 1996 by Minister of Public Works Diane Marleau. It holds the highest monetary value of any circulating Canadian coin as of 2024. It was designed as a bimetallic coin and features a polar bear on the reverse side, which was crafted by artist Brent Townsend. The obverse of some 2023 and 2024 Toonies will bear the portrait of King Charles III, but most of the Canadian Toonies that you find will have the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse. Toonies are manufactured with a patented bimetallic coin locking mechanism, which gives them an estimated lifespan of up to 20 years compared to the 1-year lifespan of the discontinued $2 bill. In the year 2012, the Canadian Mint announced design changes to enhance security features, including alterations to the composition of the coin's core and outer ring. The moniker of Toonie was given to the coin as a blend of two and loonie, which is Canada's $1 coin, and it is commonly spelled T-O-O-N-I-E. The coin was officially launched in the year 1996, with the Winnipeg facility of the Canadian Mint striking 375 million coins by the year's end. The introduction of the Toonie marked the end of the Canadian $2 bill's circulation, which was withdrawn 3 days before the coin's release. Notable landmarks like the Toonie Monument in Campbellford, Ontario were erected to commemorate its designer's hometown and celebrate the coin's significance in Canadian currency. When the Toonie was first being released in the year 1996, the Canadian Mint made a promise to fulfill a quota of a certain amount of Toonies entering circulation, and they weren't sure if they could fulfill this quota. So they actually contracted a company by the name of Deutsche Nickel in Germany to help take some of the stress off, and Deutsche Nickel produced some of the planchettes for the Canadian 1996 Toonies. Now, there were somewhere around 350 million Canadian planchette Toonies produced and only 10 million of the German planchette Toonies, so the German is the rare of the two 1996 planchette varieties, and I've actually made videos on the 1996 German planchette Toonies in the past. If you guys would like to check those out and get some more information, I definitely suggest you go give them a little look-see. But little known to most, there are actually a few varieties you can look for on the Canadian planchette Toonies, which can add some pretty substantial values to your coins and make them worth a lot more than their face value. The sad reality is, when it comes to modern Canadian denominations like the loonie and toonie, there just aren't too many rare and valuable varieties to look for, but these are some of the more rare toonie heirs that you can identify on your 1996 Toonies. And as long as it is not a counterfeit, because there are plenty of those floating around these days, then you can make some pretty good money if you can identify any of these heirs. So what do you say we start off with the first one, which is going to be the 1996 Cigar Variety. The 1996 Cigar Variety heir on Canadian Toonies is characterized by a die chip on the end of the polar bear's nose, resembling a cigar above its mouth on the reverse side of the coin. Now, to identify this heir, you need to inspect the reverse side of the coin where the polar bear is depicted, and then look closely at the end of the bear's nose above its mouth for the presence of a small protrusion or anomaly resembling a cigar. This small die chip on the polar bear's nose most likely occurred during the minting process due to a small piece of debris or damage on the die used to strike the coins. As the die came into contact with the planchette, the debris or damage transferred onto the coin's surface, resulting in this unique cigar-shaped anomaly on the polar bear's nose. This error could have originated from a variety of factors, including imperfections in the die or foreign material accidentally introduced at some point during the minting process. Now, if you can identify this die chip that resembles a cigar on your 1996 Toonie, it will typically be found on the Canadian planchette, but if you can find one on a German planchette, it will be worth a whole heck of a lot more than the estimates that I am giving you. But in most cases, these errors and varieties are probably going to be found on the Canadian planchettes, as there were so many more of them produced than the German. Now, if you can identify the cigar die chip on the 1996 Toonie, it can be worth around $10 for an MS63 and all the way up to $75 for an MS65. If it was to grade any higher than that, you would see some pretty substantial price jumps. You could easily be talking a $300 coin if it scored that MS67. If you were to buy an uncirculated roll of 1996 Toonies, you may be able to score that high grade. That would probably be your best chance, because if you're finding them in your pocket change or coin roll hunting, they probably aren't going to be quite that high in condition. So let's move on to the next variety, which is going to be the 1996 Horn variety. The 1996 Horn variety error on Canadian Toonies is distinguished by a die chip on top of the polar bear's nose, appearing between its mouth and eyes, resembling a horn somewhat reminiscent of a unicorn. To identify the Horn variety on your 1996 Toonies, you want to examine the reverse side of the coin where the polar bear is depicted on the center core. Then pay close attention to the area between the polar bear's mouth and eyes on top of its nose for the presence of a small protrusion or anomaly resembling a horn. The origin of the die chip that resembles a horn would have stemmed from similar factors with the cigar variety. Most likely at some point during the minting process, there was a flaw or imperfection on the dies used to strike these coins. As the dies came into contact with the planchettes, the flaw transferred onto the coin's surface, resulting in these unique horn-shaped anomalies on the polar bear's nose. Now, if you can identify the die chip on top of the polar bear's head, which will basically resemble a horn, I would say it makes the polar bear look almost like a unicorn, then it can add a pretty substantial value to your 1996 Toonie. It can be worth around $40 in an MS63 and all the way up to $150 for an MS65. So the 1996 Horn variety is just about twice as rare and valuable as the cigar variety, which is pretty strange considering they are both very similar and they are a die chip. I guess the location of this die chip means just about everything when it comes to the value of these Toonies. And last but not least, we have the no ice variety for the Canadian 1996 Toonies. If you are somewhat versed in Canadian coins, you might have heard of the horn or cigar variety for the 1996 Toonies, but recently a new variety or error has come onto the scene, and that is the no ice variety. The 1996 no ice variety on Canadian Toonies is characterized by a lack of detail in the background behind the polar bear. When inspecting between the polar bear's legs, you may notice a notable absence of detail, particularly in the depiction of the cracks of ice that are typically visible on standard issues of the 1996 Toonies. To identify the 1996 no ice variety error, examine the reverse side and focus on the area between the polar bear's legs in the background. Look for a lack of detail in this region, particularly the absence of the usual cracks of ice that are present on the regular 1996 Toonie issues. This reduced or faint appearance of the details indicates the presence of this error or variety. This lack of detail in the 1996 no ice variety error is most likely attributed to die polishing during the minting process. Die polishing involves smoothing or refining the surface of the die to remove imperfections or irregularities. In this case, excessive polishing or unintentional damage to the die may have resulted in the loss of detail in the background behind the polar bear, including the cracks of ice. As a result, the air variety exhibits a distinct lack of detail compared to the standard 1996 Toonies. Now, when it comes to determining the value of the 1996 no ice variety Toonie, I was actually not able to find any estimates online or in any of my coin catalogs. This is a fairly new error that has just come onto the scene as of recent, but if I had to give my estimate, I would say it's probably similar in value to the 1996 Cigar Variety. I don't want to say it's quite on the high end, but if you can identify this, it will definitely have a premium. So it can probably be worth around $10 for an MS63. You might be able to get around $75 for an MS65, and if it scores in a very high grade around an MS67, you might even be able to get $300 to $500 depending on how bad somebody wants the coin. So the most valuable of these three 1996 Toonie varieties that you can identify is the Horn variety. If you were to find one and it scored an MS67, you may be able to get up to $1,000 for this coin. Your best chances of being able to find high grade examples of these would probably be to buy an uncirculated roll from your local coin shop or one of the online coin auction sites. Even if you were to spend $100 to $150 on an uncirculated roll of 1996 Toonies, if the roll does have any of these errors or varieties, you could potentially turn a massive profit. And the good thing about some of these errors is usually when you buy a roll, if one of the coins in the roll has any of these errors or varieties, then probably all of them will, as coins are usually struck in sequence and bunched together. So usually when you find errors or varieties, you will find them bunched together in an uncirculated roll. Now I'm going to give you guys some of the details and specifications for the 1996 Canadian Toonies. For anyone that isn't aware, there's a huge problem with counterfeit Toonies in Canada, and I have encountered 4 different dates of counterfeit Toonies: 1996, 2000, 2005, and 2006, and the most counterfeit Toonies that I've stumbled across have the date of 1996. And if you find a Canadian 1996 counterfeit Toonie, it doesn't matter if you identify any errors or varieties, it is basically worthless and actually illegal to own if you know that it is a counterfeit coin. So hopefully that problem will be addressed soon. But some of the details and specifications for the 1996 Toonies: the Canadian Planchette 1996 Toonie has a mintage figure of 315,483,000. The German Planchette 1996 Toonie has a mintage figure of 10 million. So the German Planchette is far rarer than the Canadian Planchette Toonie. I'm not going to go into how to identify and differentiate between the different planchettes of the 1996 Toonies. If you guys would like to find that out, I definitely suggest you check out my video on the German Planchette Toonies. Now some of the specifications: the 1996 Toonie's outer ring is composed of 100% nickel, its inner core is composed of 92% copper, 6% aluminum, and 2% nickel. It has a weight of 7.3 grams, a diameter of 28 millimeters, a thickness of 1.8 millimeters. The coin was designed and engraved by Dora DePatriot Hunt and Augo Aran for the obverse, and Brent Townsend and Augo Aran for the reverse. The edge of the coin is interrupted reading, and it has a die-axis in metal alignment, as is the standard for most Canadian, British, and Australian coins. Now, what do you guys think about these 1996 Toonie varieties? What would you do if you ever found one, or if you ever have found any of the coins that I discussed in this video? Please let me know down in the comments. I would love to know. Also, I would really appreciate if you guys would smash that thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and also ring that bell notification so you can stay up to date with my new content as it is being released. But I think that is pretty much going to do it for this one, folks. So until the next one, everybody, peace out and have a good one, y'all.